So that's about all. I think, sir, I'm on time. Thank you.
Great. So let me thank the panelists for their very useful contributions. Can you just give them a good round of applause? Ma'am, I think you just give us a couple of minutes. Let's just see if there are any questions, because I think we finished quite efficiently. So if there are any 2 or 3 quick questions, I can see Professor Chaturvedi's hand up. Anybody else? Maybe you can just state your questions first, and then we can take the answers from the panelists. Let's start with Dr. Chaturvedi. I'll come to you next. Thank you.
My question to all panelists, that to raise world-class institution in coming decade, next 10 or 20 years, should we not ask for change in the role of regulatory bodies? Because so far, too much rigid control has sometimes not allowed to good institutions to become world-class.
Yes, sir. Can we take the other question, please? Sir, can you just ask your question? Just pass the mic to him, please, at the back. And just come to Sanjay later, please. I think he asked the question first.
Dr. Bagli from Rewa University. I want to know from IIM and from PSIT, what's your model for a PhD program? How is that you're matching with world-class other institutes in promoting your PhD program?
Okay, thank you. And the lady at the back, please.
Good morning. This is Dr. Padmaja from MS Ramya Institute of Management. I really like the concept of promoting faculty members for taking international projects. How do you identify and choose the faculty members, or is it extended to all of them? Thank you.
And last question from Sanjay, please. Sorry, you'll have to just come to the front.
Too cold.
Hi, so my question is on edupreneurship. I think we got a fantastic panel that has got professional directors as well as people who have developed institutions. So since we touched the topic of autonomy, I would like the panel to actually give me an answer on what exactly is the autonomy, in terms of the scope, and what is the kind of control you would expect any owner to actually exercise on or control, or rather tracking mechanism to look at the progress. So that's my question.
Okay, great. So we have some very interesting questions. I'm going to take a quick attempt to answer a couple of the questions. One is about faculty getting international exposure. So we do have a selection process for all of these. So faculty members have to come up with a proposal. We have a competitive selection, and then they're selected by external experts and our internal faculty. So it's on a competitive basis among all the eligible faculty. Regarding PhD program, I think again it's all about benchmarking. It's about setting higher standards for the qualification process. It's about getting very good examiners from abroad to make sure that the thesis is up to international standards. It's up to insisting that the students publish in international journals, well-established ones. That also shows the standard of the doctoral work they are doing. So I think it's again a multi-pronged kind of process to address that issue. So let me now hand over the mic to Dr. Jawar. Maybe you can reflect a little bit on this autonomy issue, which I think Sanjay was asking.
Insofar as autonomy is concerned, the reason why we became a university was to get autonomy, because we were a part of an affiliated system for 25 years and we had enough of it. So we wanted to get out, chart our own charter of activities, and then get to where we are. I can say that what we have been able to do as a university in 3 years, we wouldn't have been able to do it in 30 years. That is the feeling that we have internally, and we are all very happy about the fact that the transition has already taken place. Regarding the controlling authorities, which still do continue to exist in the form of AICT and other bodies, I think we are not really bothered about them anymore, primarily because their standards are minimum standards. I mean, whatever we are doing right now, we are far ahead of whatever the requirements are. So I think that's not much of a hurdle at all. And I think once they see the scale at which you operate and the things that you do, we have not had any problems with them. Absolutely none. So that's my take on it. And coming to the sponsoring our faculty members for our various international activities, we have made it mandatory for all of them. We have asked the departmental heads to identify one person in the department every semester they should be sent out. If they are not sent out, then the chairman is sent out. I mean, we have to push them out, because unless we get the exposure to everybody, then the institution will not grow. And so that's been our internal take on it. Insofar as masters and PhD programs in PS University is concerned, we have taken this view in the engineering programs that it is going to be a zero revenue program for us. The entire receipts that are going to be there from that particular program will be invested back in the program in terms of scholarships and assistantships, and also making sure that the quality of their experience is of a higher order. So you would definitely see people who are enrolled in our program are the happiest lot. In fact, even our master's students, pretty much the entire fee collected from them is refunded back to them as scholarship over the next 2 years. So there's zero, pretty much. But at the same time, we have a very, very strict body which is identifying the quality of students who are becoming a part of our program. And that's a big difference. So getting a degree, a master's or a PhD from PS University is extremely tough. The entry criteria is tough. The work that is expected of you is of a higher order. The kind of scrutiny that you are subjected to is also of a different order. And that's the only way we can build a world-class institution.
Dr. Diwan and Abhishek, maybe you could talk a little bit about the regulatory issue which Dr. Chaturvedi was raising.
Sure. Before, I think what Sanjay was asking was more about from perspective of owner, manager, or the trustee head, how he gives the autonomy to his people in the institution, his professional managers in the institution. So I speak from the experience of UPS, where I was both a professional vice chancellor as well as the founder of the university. And we followed the classical corporate model that each dean was like a SBU head. So if you are a dean of law school or engineering school or design school, so you are the SBU head, you have a performance parameters and indicators, so which are measured on periodic basis, quarterly reviews happen, but you do not breathe on their necks every day and you are sitting in their cabins and asking this and that. Also very important to clear a very well-defined delegation matrix, which has delegation of authority and the financial delegations as well. So I know some business schools where even directors go to trustees for 2,000 rupees or thereabouts. That's not done. Depending on the scale of their college, you have to give them the financial autonomy within the framework and leave it whether they are spending it for what. At the end, the results will come. And third and final thing in this part is the automation. How well is your defined? At UPS, from this day zero, we were on SAP ERP system, and everything was electronically available on the dashboards. In the last 5-6 years of my tenureship at UPS, I hardly visited campus 4-5 days in a month, and everything was available on right in front of me, whether I want student reports, I want faculty reports, classroom attendances. So these are the three key parameters to keep hands off, yet be in control of the institution. So that's very important, how you devise those systems and how you propagate those systems. Insofar Dr. Chaturvedi's question is, my question is also, or my answer is also quite similar to Dr. Jawahar's. When you transcend the minimum standards, you no longer bother, and when you are a university, the pinpricks, etc., are far lesser. I mean, in all 15 years, UGC just came to us only once for one formal initial inspection, and after that, there was no need because there was nothing that we were doing wrong. So we had a very, very smooth run for 15 years with regulators, no hindrance. Yes, Bar Council for Law program will come every 2 years, but they will come, and if everything is upright, nothing will happen. Yeah. So that's my brief.
Creating world-class university in future.
I think Dr. Chaturvedi, I'm sorry, I'll have to interrupt.
Yeah, okay.
Any final comment you want?
Well, just to add to what Dr. Diwan mentioned, I mean, what he's saying is something that I echo completely. But the way out something that we have a very strong tendency to remain compliance is what we want to do. Comply with, as Dr. Jawahar said, the minimum basic requirement. That's gone by the way. So we've got to think of, if it's world class, then let's benchmark ourselves as he's done in his place. Benchmark ourselves with those whom we want to be. So a target of 2036, can we have something like a Chicago Booth or a Harvard out of India, is what I would see as a very aspirational target. Not something that is not doable the way that he mentioned, but challenging, no doubt, but can be done. That's it.
Thank you very much.
They're presenting about 2,000 rupees for 4 of these children for their future education. We have Tilakesh, Hanumatappa, Jacob, and Sahil Gudubai. So these are the 4 children who will be getting some education support in respect of gratitude to this panel. Thank you. Who will be presenting a case study on the Manipal University. So as he comes up on stage, a very quick introduction to Dr. Vinod Bhatt. Dr. Hatangadi Vinod Bhatt spearheads the diversification of Manipal University course offerings, international collaborations and research. He has been responsible for the spectacular growth in external research funding for Manipal University, increasing the funds from less than 1 crore per year to more than 20 crores a year in 7 years. So let me call upon Dr. Bhatt to start his presentation.
Significant changes in this focus in the last 18 months or so. That aspiration, that ambition to have a pool of people who can lead institutions, departments, centers, campuses, also start and initiate processes which will propel our future growth, we put that as our objective. The objective was really to develop leadership who are capable of leading the university and the group for the future. The set of activities that we charted out for a program which we called as SMILE, and this was for an integrated leadership engagement, was tailor-made, and you'll hear more about what we did from Mervyn, who is my partner today, he represents the firm which is taking us through this experiment. The outcomes that we really expected was to create a rich pool of resourceful people within the university's ecosystem who can take on positions of leadership. And the impact, as we expressed, was to create really that rich pipeline of people. So the university as a service is built around people, and we wanted leadership to emerge from within. Some of the factors which we think have contributed to our success so far. It's really too hard to talk about impact, but I can only talk about the outcomes. And looking at some of those outcomes, I'm only encouraged to say that it has paid us well. The university has believed in this. This is an initiative that was taken up by the university to engage a consulting firm to take a group of people through a very structured, customized course in leadership. The kind of training, the kind of engagement has been both external and internal. There has been a whole lot of participation from within the university's own leadership team in mentoring these likely leaders for tomorrow. So to an extent, I feel that this initiative, this intervention, has helped me to break the silos that existed in the bureaucracy which had crept into us strangely into a private system. Normally, you wouldn't expect this in a private university, in a private environment. But over a period of time, I think as we grow bigger, as we grow more complex, you can't escape the fact that these silos will be built, these red tapes will be created, and I think I should be one of those who are guilty of making this happen. So this system, to an extent, broke that. So there's a direct mentor-mentee relationship, and there are about 10 mentors from within the system who are taking 60 mentees through a process of leadership. I'll now ask Mervyn to explain the framework, to tell us what he has done so far and what he expects in the near future.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatt. My name is Mervyn Raphael. I'm the Managing Director of People Business, who have partnered Manipal University with this initiative. We've done this initiative across industries. And when we actually started this entire process with them, there's always that doubt, will this work for academia? Having done it for scientists, having done it for different industry sectors. And I think, however, with the vision of Dr. Bhatt and also the strong sponsorship from the Vice Chancellor's office, I think we are into the second phase of the program. We finished batch 1, now we are into batch 2. Batch 1 was in 2015 and batch 2 is in 2016. And all I can say is it's been a resounding success. We've had, guys who are surgeons who do 80 surgeries a month, laparoscopic surgeries. I've been a coach to one of them, a guy called Alfred. I've really seen him transform into a true leader. From somebody who was just a leader in the surgical room to actually probably supporting Dr. Bhatt in their Vision 2020 plan. So what did we do to also make it, really work in terms of this framework for academia? Did we do anything different? I would say that the focus really was on execution excellence. So if you look at this model, the first part of it really talks about profiling. Now, for many of the academicians, they've never been through profiling because what are they doing all the time? They're profiling students, right? They're giving feedback to students. Students are giving feedback on them. So for them, it was a lot of apprehension coming into the room, wondering what's going on, what's not going to happen. But I think when they walked out of the room after 2 days, going through some instruments to understand themselves and also to understand in an academic environment, what kind of leaders or administrators they would become, we actually focused on that as a first phase in terms of getting that insight into themselves, and more importantly is accepting the fact that yes, I think we have potential. We can also grow as leaders in the university in addition to be academicians or faculty or just being surgeons. And how did we do that? Once we've actually done the assessments for them, we actually go through a phase of talking to them and helping them to understand that development can happen even for such people with high cognitive ability only if they took ownership. So the focus really was to get them to take ownership. And I think for us, that's a very important part of the process. And I think Dr. Vinod Bhatt has really helped in making that process happen. Because the entire process that we went through was also getting people to nominate themselves. And post the nomination, there was a selection process. And they had to justify as to why they wanted to be admitted to the program and therefore what they could contribute post the program. And that was followed through with really getting their hearts and minds in terms of the educate process. And then normally this process, both profile and educate, took about 3 months, and then they embarked on the 6-month journey. Now the 6-month journey was all about each of them taking a project. And people actually took projects outside of even their own areas of work. For example, I'm working with a pediatrician, the head of pediatrics in KMC currently as a coach for 6 months. And she has taken a project in terms of bringing energy efficiencies in the entire hospitals in Mangalore. So, and when you looked at her, the reason she did that was she says, I'm presently a doctor, but I think for me, I want this entire hospital to be environmental friendly, being a cost benefit for the university, but more importantly, I can improve my own business acumen. So therefore, the whole idea of taking the project was to, one is to help them get the confidence of actually being able to do something which is breakthrough for the university, whether it be university ranking or moving to a research institution or starting courses which actually would be in consulting for civil engineering. The different kinds of programs they've taken. And almost 70 to 80% of them actually are very successful in that. Now, during that process of development, there are 2 things that we do. We actually support them with a coach, and the coach works with them for 6 months, in addition to the internal mentor who they have. And we also provide with them what is something known as a reflection journal. Now, the reflection journal actually gives them a lot of learning through TED Talks, YouTubes, videos, articles, books, and different other things which they can use, and they actually apply that on the project or on their day-to-day job. To give you a very quick example to wrap this up, I'm working with one of the people who actually for 1 month worked on body language. And she was telling me how it's really helped her in terms of dealing with patients, especially patients who had a demise in the family, in terms of the communication by looking at body language and handling that. So something as simple as body language to something as high as business acumen or strategic thinking in terms of taking the university to the next level, in terms of getting the confidence to become great administrators in addition to being excellent faculty in their own functional area. And at the end of it, most importantly, is we evaluate the effectiveness of this program. And this is done through a process where we actually make a summary for each person. We discuss it with Dr. Vinod Bhatt over one long day in terms of looking at who are those 10% or 15% who can actually move into higher level roles or take up different assignments in different locations. And then I think Dr. Bhatt for the first batch has made that happen, and now we're just concluding the second batch in December. So this is what the overall program is like. It's a 9-month program, 3 months for assessment and education, and then 6 months for coaching and development.
These are some of the things that most of my faculty who volunteered and got selected for this Leadership Institute had to go through. So they had to go through workshops on things that they had never heard of before. These were really pulling them out of their comfort zones. And as Mervyn mentioned, they were good at what they were doing, but the university expected them to be good at more things. And these are the identified areas where they were given special coaching. Some successful projects, I'm just putting 3 representative projects, but at the end of December this year, I would have had about 90 projects from all the mentees of the SMILE project. Some of them have been implemented, some of them will be implemented soon. Some have been dropped because of viability. But these are some things that the leaders for tomorrow have worked on, and some of the things that have already come up are already there. This also resonates very well with the university's own vision for 2020. As a part of the vision, the university had declared that by 2020, the university would have set up 100 new centers. So as I count today, we have set up 71 of those 100 in just about 1.5 years. And a whole lot of them are led by these faculty who have gone through this training. What we wanted them to do was in understanding how to manage themselves, their teams, and the institutions that they would be asked to head someday. And this was a cohort that I kept a very close watch on, at least the first batch of mentees, because the second batch is yet to come. I still have to see the short list of good performers. But the first batch of mentees was the one that I followed up very closely to see what I can see in them in terms of changes, in terms of behavioral and attitudinal changes that they would bring to workplace. And I can only say that this has been remarkable. I myself had gone through something like this about 7-8 years back, and given myself to somebody like Mervyn, not Mervyn exactly. And I had seen the change in myself, but I wanted to see it from a third party, to see how it works for others. And I should say that the 10% of the people that we had shortlisted for fast-track growth within the university have shown admirable qualities, and these were shifts from their earlier behavior. And they are now the ones who are now part of various other new initiatives of the university. They may not be holding positions of leadership today, but they have been asked to take up responsibilities within the university as and when the Vice-Chancellor, the Registrar, or the President feels that there is a need for chaperoning a new initiative. To give you an example, just last month, we set up what we call as an Executive Council of the university. There's an Executive Committee of the university which has all the heads of departments. But I needed a 4-member team to form an Executive Council, basically to take through some of the things which are falling between the stools right now within the university system, also to oversee some of the new initiatives that may be brought in. And all these 4 members of the Executive Council are people who have come through this Leadership Institute. So what do I see as benefits from the program? So we have successfully seen through 2, at least the second one will be through by the end of this year, but I can see that they're already showing a whole lot of promise. The kind of opportunities for faculty to be exposed to things which they otherwise wouldn't have seen within the university. For example, a good professor of pharmacy